Hi, and welcome to the Gaining Ground podcast. I am Jack,
I'm Steven.
and this is brought to you by Calvary Baptist Church in Paw Paw, Michigan. Today we're going to be talking to you on the topic of why are so many Gen Zers missing from church?
And then we also want to talk about why certain ideas are keeping Gen Zers from turning to Christ. Christ isn't the way for them. That's what I hope to get through with this episode.
Let's get into that a little bit, okay? You said, okay, pause. I forgot what you said.
No.
All right.
Okay, so just take a minute just to think about it, because we can't just cut
into it as we're in the middle of conversation. You need to just be like, okay, now let's so you can cut into this. They will have something.
All right, so let's discuss first how it started. So I think what started the decline, so how it's been, okay? This is how I lay it out in my head. Since Christ came back, or since Christ came 2,000 years ago, it was more of like a more steady decline, okay? And in the past few decades, it's been a bigger drop. And I think why that started so long ago is because the closer to Christ in time, okay, it was more of a reality than a story, and today it's more of a story than a reality. And why is that? Do you think it's just people were not teaching their kids the truth anymore, or they just didn't believe it as much?
Well, obviously the kids don't know. They most likely do not know the apostles, let alone Jesus.
Yeah.
So obviously there is that, do I believe this? And of course, if you're raised to believe one thing, there's a big chance you'll have a bias to believe it.
Okay, so teaching kids the history because they didn't know Christ personally, right? They'd never met him or the apostles or anything. It was just all in the Bible or in the books or whatever they had. Obviously, they didn't have like the book. They had all the
different writings from the apostles.
And it wasn't all Bible. It was other history and all that.
They had the Torah and the letters, like Paul's letters to the churches.
Paul's letters to churches, yeah. So they didn't have visual contact with Christ. They only read. But I guess an interesting thought is even today, why do people believe in the historical figures in your history books in school, but why not Christ?
One reason why they don't believe in Jesus is because, the resurrection and the miracles he did is unbelievable to many people.
Okay.
But then that's why that's one reason they don't believe in it, is because it seems a little too magical to them. The reason why I think we should is, like in all history, the reason why we know things are in history is because of eyewitness testimony and people writing that down. Nowadays, we have like CCTV and cameras, and like you can see it for yourself. It's become a world of, if I do not see it, I do not believe it. Yet you believe history, which all you have of history is eyewitness testimony, word of mouth, and things that have been written about it, which is the same type of history that's in the Bible. And the reason why I believe the Bible is true is because, this one guy, if it was just a guy, if Jesus, let's just say, in theory, if Jesus was just a guy, how in the world did this one guy, by the words and by the people he said, change the entire world? I mean, thousands. It was just in a couple years, thousands of people all of a sudden turned to Christianity. Thousands of people have all of a sudden believed that this one man who lived in this place is the Son of God, and were willing to die for it. Yeah. No one is willing to die for something that they do not believe is true. Many people are willing to die for a lie if they believe it's the truth. So what in the world happened that made these people willing to die for something that many people nowadays just think is a lie?
Yeah, that's like today we tell that to Gen Zers, right? And we're Gen Z ourselves. So we share that with our generation, and we tell them, like, there is proof that this was actually real because people died for this. They're not going to die for just
not
some
just
guy.
Deaths, horrible. Yeah. Horrible deaths.
Horrible deaths. Like Peter was crucified upside down.
Is the belief.
And
I mean, but just not even the apostles. You're at what is it? Like Nero. Nero did horrible things to Christians, and he the whole lions thing. They'd say, if you do not do this, I will throw you to the lions, and you will be mauled to death, which is not a fast and peaceful death. Yeah. And they, with their whole families, would just say, I will not deny Christ, and they'd be chucked and fed to the things. And horrible other deaths across history, across entire history. There's been horrible things.
I think it was a couple weeks ago, our grandpa, which is a pastor, he talked about the Waldensian Massacre, which was, it was 2,000 people died because they believed in Christ. And they're not going to just die because they believe in some dude. They died because they believe the Son of God came back and died for people on the cross.
Yeah.
So today, where is that belief? Like, where is that? I am so set that I believe this, that I will not change my mind.
Well, one thing you need to analyze as well is when you're talking about Gen Z, is we're talking about Gen Z in like Western culture.
Yeah.
Because you got to realize that most of this idea of there being no God and these people who just outright say these things, even though there's multiple evidence pouring for God. I mean, you don't really, let's be honest, many people, you don't really live their lives off facts. They live their lives off evidence because fact is like an ultimate meaning. But over all that, we've been so blessed, and with these blessings, people have began to kind of get comfortable and take it for granted, yes. They've been grown around all these privileges, and they don't realize how privileged it is. Does that mean, is it bad to be privileged? No. These privileges were hard worked for. It took a lot of pain and a lot of work and a lot of death to get these privileges.
So you think they've got comfortable in the like the blessings that we've been given. You said over the past 200 years we've become probably one of the greatest countries on the planet. For sure, one of the greatest countries on the planet. And it's all if you look back, it's really because in search of religious liberty people came over and they fought for freedom. And I'm not saying it was like only for religious liberty, okay, but it was a fight for freedom. And today it's not that anymore. It's just, living in the comfort of your own home, okay? You don't affect anybody around you anymore. And I think, actually, now that we were talking about it more, I talked about earlier the steady decline and the drop in the past few decades. And you said it's big in the Western culture, not in the Eastern.
I mean, I say Western cultures, but very, it's just in any society that's become very advanced. One thing that also is kind of a thing that's happened is when, as I was saying earlier, with the privileges we've been given with this country, is over time, like one thing that needs to happen is when you're raising a child in a privileged country, and with privileges is people need to be raised with the knowledge that what they have here is not, what you're just gonna get.
Yeah.
I just don't know.
So thinking about,
I'm lost.
I think further down the line, it's become more of a enjoying sowing and reaping. Okay, people generations ago, they were planting the seeds. They were planting the fruits that we enjoy today. Right? We have freedom of religion, freedom of speech, all of that, and a lot of people take that for granted today in our country. And I think that's a big problem because even people today now don't realize that we could lose that at any moment, and they don't defend it at all. And especially, in Gen Zers today, you don't defend your faith anymore. I'm gonna put it that way. You don't defend your faith anymore. You just kind of live in it. So your faith, if you don't defend your faith isn't really there. It's just kind of an idea.
Well, because with our generation, as we said earlier, is they believe they don't really want to offend people, and they kind of like have a limbo faith where they exist in this bubble of just whatever, because they don't really care, and so they can believe whatever they want to believe for whatever reason, and it's just kind of like, so no matter what comes your way, you can just do this and go that, and just turn one way from the other to whatever belief for whatever time, and that is not you don't have structure in your life.
Yeah, so
you don't have structure in your worldviews. How are you going to continue a belief of, I just believed in nothing my whole life, and that's the best way to,
Faith has to be tested. Let's think what faith is real fast. Faith is believing in something that you can't see. So, for example,
the substance of things hoped for, right? Isn't that what faith means?
Yeah, you could. But let's think about when Peter stepped out to walk on the water, okay?
Mm-hmm.
First, they saw, and they thought it was a spirit. Okay, that's really interesting because maybe that's where a lot of people are sitting in their faith today. They see kind of I don't know what this is, but I believe in it, okay? They think this is a spirit, and it says, and Christ says it's him. I can't quote it. I could pull it up. I'm going to pull it up. Okay, and I'm going to read this here. It says, and the disciples saw him walking on the sea. They were troubled, saying, it is a spirit, and they cried out for fear. So
what chapter is that?
Matthew 14, this is verse 26, and I'm going into verse 27 in just a second. They cried out of fear because they saw a spirit, okay? And like I just said, it's more of a blur of faith, okay? You don't know what you believe in. You don't know what you're looking at. And Jesus in verse 27 says, but straightway Jesus spake unto them, saying, Be of good cheer, it is I, be not afraid. And Peter himself decides to test it. After Jesus had said, it is me. Okay, an example of this is like, you say you have faith, there's like a blur of what you believe in, and then there's evidence. Christ said, Be of good cheer, it is I, be not afraid. There's the blessings, there's the good country we live in, but we still don't believe in it, so we test it. Peter answered him and said, Lord, if it be thou, bid me come unto thee on the water. It's Peter testing it. He still isn't sure. And he said, Come. And when Peter was come down out of the ship, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. But he tested his faith. And that is the biggest part in faith, okay? You cannot believe in something that you don't have faith in. Faith has to be tested. Mm-hmm. And Thomas, he didn't believe that it was Jesus till he touched the holes in his
hand. And what does Jesus say after that? He's like, Blessed are you, Thomas, for you believe me and you see. Yeah. Or you see and believe, but blessed more are they who don't see and still believe, or something like that? Who believe and don't see? Yeah. Which that's our generation. Let's think about it. We have never seen any drastic miracle, such as, like you see in the Old Testament, where rivers turn to blood, frogs of like the millions coming out of just small things, flies coming from dust, the dead risen, anything like that. We have never seen those. Yet we have many Christians who actually do believe in Christ. The miracles we see now are the people that come out the other side after their faith is tested. Mm-hmm. That's what I think. You don't see water being turned into wine, but you see lives being changed, right? There's miracles in many things. Yeah. This is the time. See, we had the time, Old Testament, the time of law and the time of building of yourself to law and to serve God. This is the time of, now that Jesus has come back, it's a time of redemption and a time of faith, before the paradise is restored unto earth. Yeah, redemption and faith. That's actually, you put that really well, actually, I'm not going to lie. You said before Jesus came back, it was law, the sacrifices, all that. And now it's redemption. Jesus came back and he died. And now it's believing that happened. And if you believe, you're good. The way people live nowadays, it's actually kind of many Christians are being trialed with different beliefs, and there's so many different beliefs that are happening, but I feel like this is the most crucial time for Christians. Mm-hmm. There's so many more trials and things like evolution. How is that? How does God work with this? How does God work with these new ideas? How is God so loving if he's willing to cast anybody who doesn't believe with him in hell? Of course, that's very basic ideas and very basic views, and these are things that people teach, but that's why it's the most crucial time for Christians today, because we can find the answers with the Bible, and we can answer those questions, and we can better grow and call people to the Lord in this time. Study the Bible. So what we're saying is we think a good, not the whole solution, but a good kind of bringing Gen Z back and bringing not only Gen Z, obviously, but all the generations. No matter what, we still will be living with these people. And I don't think we need to conform to their ideas, because God will not conform to people. People conform to God. So, I believe. Oh my gosh, that's really good. Sorry. Well,
okay.
You don't draw.
God doesn't conform to people. People conform to God.
Well, it's basically God will not draw nigh unto you. You draw nigh unto God. Well, actually, no. Sorry. If you draw nigh unto God, He will draw nigh unto you.
But you have to make the first step.
Well, by conforming, I mean God will not change His ways to better please you.
God never changes.
God is going to stay where He is. I mean, He is a king. Many people think that He is not as loving as people say. But you got to remember the stance that God is in. He is the king of the world. And by the way, He Himself came down and suffered. So once again, that is a very big step for loving, considering the place God is in. Yeah. Like overall, came down and He's prepared a time which is the time we live in now, where people can come to Him, and He will bless you, and He will grant you, He's offering you eternal peace and happiness. And you will live in His kingdom forever. And some people, I remember I saw a whole thing about some people think that He's going to make you be a slave for the rest of life. No. Yeah. Some people don't. That's not how it is. I think it's more of like what you're trying to say here is
There's two sides that people see God now. There's
'cause
the
people-
everybody, like God loves everybody. He will accept you just as you are, which He does. But people think you don't have to change.
Yeah, well, people don't
And then
understand.
there's the other side of that, which is God is going to destroy all of you if you have any kind of sin. You're toast. You're done. But for now, wrapping this up, I think a big part of Gen Z is they don't test their faith, and that's going to be a big part of a lot of our podcast episodes. And that's our goal, is to put up questions, okay, make you think about it.
Our overall goal with this is to get people more open with asking questions, get people more open with studying the Bible, and just being more social with their common man and talking about the Bible. That's honestly what I want. I don't care if this podcast does any great things in the next few years, this year. I just really hope that at least somebody, if it helps somebody, it'll be a blessing. I don't know.
Anyways, that is all we have time for today. If you guys have anything you'd like us to talk about in later episodes, drop it down in the comments. Please leave a like and subscribe, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Bye.